Hi, my name is Zoe Cross, and I'm going to talk to you about descriptive sensory analysis of hard cider. Analysis of variance testing was completed on a selection of hard ciders that were found at the Whiskey Barrel Cider in Pullman, Washington. They create their cider from local apples, and all of their ciders start with a base that has about 7% alcohol content. 6 ciders were evaluated: the natural, which is the base that they use for all their other ciders; pear, which is a combination of pear and apple; cherry, which is also a combination of cherry and apple; the triple play, the damn hard, and the wazoo number 3. 4 panelists have evaluated each of the samples twice for consistency. The data was then analyzed using qualitative descriptive analysis, an ANOVA, or analysis of variance, and PCR. The selected attributes that were analyzed for this were clarity, fruit flavor, apple flavor, sourness, ethanol burn, carbonation, and sweetness. A set of standards were created and evaluated to have something to compare to when creating these. So a 15 centimeter line scale was used, and each of the standards were sampled in 3 different sessions, and they were evaluated 10 minutes apart to gain confidence and ensure that each standard could be set at 10 centimeters on a 15 centimeter line scale. So here's a summary of the various attributes and standards that were used, and their intensity, also the definition of that attribute, how it was defined. Here's a table summarizing the F ratios and degrees of freedom for the 6 different ciders. Asterisks denote significance. If the F value was larger than the critical value, then it was found that there were differences between the treatments. There was differences between the samples for the attributes of clarity, apple flavor, fruit flavor, sourness, sweetness, and carbonation. Among the panelists, significant differences were clarity and fruit flavor. Here's a table summarizing the mean values of evaluation by the panelists for the 6 different ciders and the attributes. Different letters in the same columns denote significant differences among the ciders. However, there was significant differences found for all of the selected attributes because they all had different letters in the columns. Here's a summary of the attributes' mean scores on a radar plot. As can be seen here, clarity has the largest difference mean score, meaning this was the attribute that had the most variation between the sample. Fruit flavor was next, and as can be seen, all the rest of the attributes are pretty much the same. They have very similar levels of variation between the samples. This plot doesn't include ethanol because it was not found to have significant variance. Here's a summation of the Pearson correlation table with color-coded boxes. The most negatively correlated correlations are marked in red, and the most positively correlated ones are marked in green. Positively correlated attributes have a positive relationship, meaning that as one variable increases, so does the other. And negatively correlated attributes have a negative relationship, which means that as one variable increases or decreases, the other decreases or increases. So it's the opposite effect. We've seen here, fruit and clarity have a very negative correlation, as does clarity with sweetness and clarity with carbonation. Also, ethanol and apple have a very negative correlation. However, fruit flavor and sweetness have a very positive correlation, so do fruit flavor and carbonation, and sweetness and carbonation. As can be seen on the opposite side, these same things are reflected. So here's the mean score summarized on an attribute basis and plotted in a principal component analysis chart. You can see that the same correlations reflected from the previous table are also reflected in this, such as a positive correlation between carbonation, sweetness, and fruit flavor right here, and a slight positive correlation between clarity and ethanol. Here's a bit by plot of the ciders showing samples in relation to attributes, where the samples from 1 to 6 are labeled as such. So the natural cider, cider number 1, which you can see right over here, had a really high clarity and some ethanol burn. The pear cider, sample number 2 over here, was very high in sourness and also had some fruit flavor. Cherry cider, sample number 3, which is right here, was very high in carbonation, sweetness, and fruit flavor. The triple play cider, sample number 4, had a high apple flavor and was fairly moderate in kind of all other attributes. The damn hard cider, number 5, was high in clarity and apple flavor. And the wazoo number 3 was high in apple flavor, sweetness, carbonation, and fruit flavor. So in conclusion, it was determined there were significant differences between 6 samples for the attributes of clarity, apple flavor, fruit flavor, sourness, sweetness, and carbonation. There were significant differences for the attributes among panelists for clarity and fruit flavor. Clarity had the largest amount of variation between the panelists, followed by fruit flavor, carbonation, sweetness, apple flavor, and sourness, but ethanol was not found to be significantly different. For the positively correlated attributes, it was found that fruit flavor and sweetness, fruit flavor and carbonation, and sweetness and carbonation. The negatively correlated attributes were clarity and fruit flavor, clarity and sweetness, clarity and carbonation, and apple flavor and ethanol. Overall, this experiment provided useful knowledge about each of the ciders and a summary of their notable attributes, such as the natural cider having a very high clarity and sort of a ethanol burn, and the pear cider having a really sour flavor. So it's very helpful to be able to summarize all of these sort of flavor profiles. In order to reduce the variance between the panelists that we found, additional training could have been conducted, or could be conducted if this was to be repeated. Hopefully, Whiskey Barrel Cider could potentially use this information to help provide a thorough description of their ciders to customers, or potentially create new ciders to fill the flavor profiles that haven't been explored. So, thank you for listening, and that's it.